Look at this beautiful thing. I personally don't like Pokemon, please, no stone throwing, but this color looks absolutely amazing. This is the Retroid Pocket Classic, and today we're going to see if it's perfect for remembering the old times you spent in the arcades or with your childhood console that always had wires scattered across the bedroom floor or living room. I'm Gilly from the Retro Oasis. Welcome to the Oasis. I bought this device with my own money, just like the Retroid Pocket Flip 2 review coming soon. But what do we have in the box? A card with the interface and specs, handheld, a quality control tag, charging cable. They're not even putting the manual in the box anymore. To me, it doesn't really matter. If you're like me, it would stay in the box or thrown in a drawer along with your toaster's manual. And look at this beautiful, charming little brick of nostalgia. It looks like they took a classic Game Boy, gave it a makeover, and injected a massive dose of emulation steroids. For those from the 80s and 90s, you guys are gonna have a retro orgasm. But what's inside? A Snapdragon G1 Gen 2 chip. Don't know this chip? Well, neither do I. Don't get confused with the 8 Gen 1, Gen 2, and so on. This one is different. It's Qualcomm's newest processor for handhelds and is focused on cloud gaming. It prioritizes CPU over GPU, which makes this chip a rare gem for emulation. It's a very powerful chip, as you'll see later on. And the Retroid Pocket Classic is the first handheld console with it. There are two variants of this device with 4 or 6 gigs of RAM and 64 or 128 gigs of internal storage respectively. AMOLED display, AMOLED, 3.92 inches 1080p resolution in a, hold on to this, 31:27 aspect ratio, but I'll talk more about that later. A 5000 mAh battery that will give you, hold on to this too, up to 15 hours of gameplay. How's that even possible? Well, of course, it depends on what you're playing. That's basically what matters. If you want to know the full specifications, I've left the link to the official website for you in the description. Oh, and this cutie over here uses Android 14 as its OS. This handheld has 7 colors available, 6 with a more traditional layout, and 1 with 6 buttons on the front, more focused on fighting games. And man, the price difference between the 4 gigs of RAM and the 6 gigs is $10. For 10 extra bucks, you get more memory and double the internal storage. It's going for $129 plus shipping on the official Retroid website, and I've left the purchase link for you in the video description. And look, considering the price in relation to everything it offers, it's not bad at all. And you'll see later what I mean. Alright, if you've made this far in the video, you have my sincere thanks. I'm going to be cheeky and ask you to like and subscribe now. You stay up to date on everything that happens in the world of handheld consoles and games. Much obliged. I really like the minimalist design they used here. The buttons are labeled like select and start here and home and back button here. This gives the device a cleaner look. Face buttons, PS Vita style D-pad, and here's the speaker, which despite being mono, still delivers a very clean sound. Of course, you can't download Spotify and use the device to liven up the Sunday barbecue, but the sound is quite good compared to other handhelds in the same category, especially in this price range. On top, we have the memory card slot, headphone jack, and the USB-C port for charging. Remember that this handheld is just that. A handheld. It doesn't have HDMI output or video out via USB-C. I think the focus here is to provide a premium retro experience on its own AMOLED screen, but I understand that this might be a problem for some people. On the left, we have the volume buttons and the power button. On the right, this little dot that I assume might be a microphone. And on the back, the shoulder buttons, which really aren't on the shoulder, and the air intake and exhaust vents, since it has active cooling. Let's take a look at the controls, starting with the D-pad. And wow, I love the PS Vita style D-pad. I mentioned in the Embernick RG557 review, if you haven't seen it yet, I'll leave the card here for you. And I said that I like D-pads like this, without any grooves. But this one is the only one I'll make an exception. It's really smooth and has great pivot. It has a rubber membrane underneath, but you can still feel the clicks when you move it. Very short travel here, and when pressed, it sits just above the shell. It has 0 false diagonals, and it's a blast for fighting games. Retroid, keep this D-pad, it's awesome. As for the face buttons, well, they're simple and small. Just look at the size difference between them and the original Game Boy. They have a flat surface. I personally prefer something more along the lines of the Odin 2, where they are slightly more rounded. In fact, these are the same ones that Retroid uses on the Retroid Pocket Flip 2. I don't have the review of that one here on the channel yet, but stay tuned, it's coming soon. These buttons have a medium travel, and when pressed, they sit right at the edge of the casing, just a little above, but fortunately nothing that hinders gameplay. They're not as noisy as in some other devices, but they still make more noise than I'd like. The triggers on the back are, well, existent. Don't expect the ergonomics of a modern controller or that of a horizontal handheld, but they do their job. They're clicky with a very short travel, and they have this curve to help with ergonomics. Talking about the ergonomics, the Retroid Pocket Classic, well, it's classic in name and form, right? It's very reminiscent of the original Nintendo brick that we loved so much. In fact, the Game Boy's grip is still better in my opinion because you didn't have to press any buttons on the back. It would be definitely worse if we had thumbsticks to worry about. So considering it's a vertical handheld, the grip is what you would expect from such a device. Even though it's capable of running several heavier systems, I think the focus here is on 8, 16 and 32-bit ones. And for those, you certainly won't have any problems. But if you have ogre hands just like me, you might need to do some stretching before playing for too long. Regarding build quality, the Retroid Pocket Classic does very well. It uses a nice matte plastic that doesn't attract fingerprints much. Those fingerprints will really stick to the touchscreen, which I'll show you later why. It's very solid, very firm. Check this out, nothing rattles. Let's say it won't survive a fall from a 10-story building, but for everyday use, it's great. Here's the size compared to other devices. And here we can see the weight. But what about the screen? Well, my friends, we are in the AMOLED era. And as expected, the colors are more vibrant than seeing a rainbow in person after the rain. To compare, I'll use the Retroid Pocket Mini, also with an AMOLED screen, only the aspect ratio is different. This is the smallest screen I have here in the studio that makes sense to compare. And being AMOLED, both are stunning. And I'll tell you, I turned up the brightness, turned it down, put on my glasses, took off my glasses, and I couldn't see any difference between the two screens. At least with the naked eye. And I consider myself to have a keen eye for these things. Both are beautiful with great brightness and super saturated colors. And for retro games, that's all we need. The brightness levels range from blinding supernova, so you can play outdoors without any problems, but with style, to subtle ninja in the night, so you can squeeze in a quick gaming session next to your partner in bed before going to sleep. As for the software, is what you can expect from an Android device. Retroid, like AYN, doesn't give you the option to buy with a game card, so you need to put your own games here. Unfortunately, there is an application that should be ashamed to exist called Rixel HK, which Embernick put on the recently released RG557. This app is free and full of games, and I'm only mentioning it so you guys can stay away from it, okay? And don't bother going to the comments and asking where to download it because Google is your friend. But even with games, you still need to organize everything, downloading the emulators, configuring them. For some people, it might seem like quantum science, but it's not that complicated. There's plenty of videos explaining how to do that, and I'm actually in the process of making one. Time permitting, of course. They'll help you to set everything up and start playing. Retroid gives you the option to use their own front end that comes included on this device. I personally don't use it, but it's for sure a lot better than Embernick's. I use Emulation Station, which gives the device this cool retro handheld look. And you have several cool different themes to choose from. It's time to test some games, and I want to prioritize what's really worth playing on this device. Take a look at the original Game Boy. It starts like this, practically in full screen. For many people, this is full screen because you can hardly see the black bars on both sides. But for the purists that want that pixel perfect image, you can go to the menu, then Settings, Video, and in Scaling, turn on Integer Scaling. Going back to the game, you notice that the black bars have become a little larger, both top and bottom, and on the sides. Since the screen bezel of this model is black, you can hardly see it's not in full screen, and you have your pixel perfect image. For this system, what I like to do is, in the same settings menu, in aspect ratio, I put full. I go back to the initial menu, go to quick menu, and then core options. Here, in GB colorization, I put internal. This leaves the screen with that green tint of the original system. Going down a little more, I go to interframe blending and put simple. This simulates that ghosting that old LCD screens had. And finally, in the quick menu, I go to shaders. I activate video shaders, go to load preset, shaders GLSL, handheld, and choose LCD 3X. And look at how nostalgic. We have the original coloring with ghosting and a shader that makes the image very close to the original device. Don't want to look at this green screen? Just circle through the options with L1 and R1. The same thing with Game Boy Advance. I use the same Game Boy shader, only here I prefer to turn on integer scale. The black bars will be larger top and bottom, but at least the image won't be stretched. In the case of 4x3 systems like NES, Mega Drive, and Neo Geo, I also leave integer scale on but change the shader. Here I use CRT Potato Worm, which is inside the CRT folder. This gives a very cool look to these systems. Playing like this, all that's missing is hearing my dad yelling at me for the third time to turn off the video game and go eat dinner. For arcade, I changed the shader style a bit and put CRT Consumer. Look at this. It makes that curve at the edges, as if it were that old CRT TV from the arcade. The Retroid Pocket Classic has enough power to run Nintendo DS and even 3DS games. But with this screen ratio, I don't think these are good systems to enjoy here, especially 3DS. Since this device doesn't have analog sticks, I had to map what would be the left one to the D-pad and put the digital D-pad on the screen if I needed to use it. It will be like this from now on. Systems that need to use the analog stick will be very laborious to play here. The original PlayStation is very cool because most games don't need the analog stick. And everything I tested runs at 1080p smoother than a penguin on ice. Nintendo 64 and Dreamcast are two more systems that run very well on the Retroid Pocket Classic. But running well doesn't necessarily mean you have a good experience with them. Smooth sailing for games that only use the D-pad, but for games that need the analog sticks, you have to do that extra work of mapping them on the screen. PSP runs beautifully here. It's a bit strange to use the D-pad to play God of War, but the option's here if you want. And since PSP is a widescreen system, the playing area is quite small. You can even play GameCube and PS2 games here without problems. Without problems, that is, except for the controls, of course. If you really want to play these systems on the Retroid Pocket Classic, I recommend you choose your games well. Or, if you want to totally annihilate the handheld's proposal, you can connect a wireless controller and play on this little screen. Guys, it sounds crazy, but even Big N's console runs on this device. You know those very light games that have no compatibility issues and don't use any analog sticks? By my count, there are 3 in the whole world. Those will run fine. Anything a little heavier will look that VCR you had when you were a kid and occasionally use the slow motion on a specific scene to try and pause at the exact point to see someone's panties. And we've reached the crucial moment. Is it worth reaching out in your pocket for this device? Well, the Retroid Pocket Classic fits into that mid-range price bracket for retro handhelds. It's not the cheapest on the market, but it also doesn't make you sell your kidney to buy one. If you are certified nostalgic who sighs just hearing the opening music of Sonic or fondly remembers the sound of a cartridge clicking in, and you want a relatively premium and affordable way to relive those moments, the Retroid Pocket Classic might be a good choice. The AMOLED screen is incredible with excellent brightness and vibrant colors. The D-pad is top-notch and one of the best for retro games. It has a premium build, much better than anything you'll find in this price range, and plenty of power, again better than any other device at this price. But not everything is perfect pixels. Did you get the reference? Being a vertical handheld, the ergonomics aren't the best for long gaming play sessions, and despite having a lot of power in this little brick, it ends up not being fully utilized due to the lack of thumbsticks and video out. But that's not a problem for me, because I understood the focus of the Retroid Pocket Classic. It's a fun and nostalgic time machine. It allows me to relive those magical childhood moments, enjoy titles that I struggled to beat by force, counting continues, and that today I can relax a little more with save states. Don't judge me, I know you guys do it too. It's a portal to the past with all its charms and some peculiarities, and it's not focused on newer games. But what did you think of it? If you already have a Retroid Pocket Classic, leave your comment below with what you're playing at the moment. And if you're thinking about buying one, I hope I helped you to make a decision, or at least entertain you for a few minutes. Before you go, check out the review of this handheld here, but first, like, subscribe and follow us.